Okay, so once again, hello and welcome to QArantanna. And my name is Marta Bidas, and I am co-organizer of QA, a community for testers. And today we have a pleasure to participate on workshops. Our topic is automating API tests with RestAssured. And let us welcome Elias, who will lead the meeting. So, Elias, please tell us a few words about yourself. I give you the floor.
Cool, thank you. Hi guys, my name is Elias. I'm a Brazilian guy. I'm living right now in the Netherlands. For a Brazilian, it's really cold. It's really different. It's really different country compared to Brazil, of course. But I love to living here, and I'm working a lot. I have new challenge here. Actually, life challenge because when you move from the one continent to another, it's completely different. But yeah, I have more than 20 years of experience, but I'm still young, I would say. And I'm all the time working only with development. Of course, I was working with backend development, front-end development, but I love to do tests. So I'm working on these quality assurance positions quite a while, like 13, 14 years. And that's pretty much me. I will show some small links to you if you would like to follow me later. And if you have any questions to me, like just ask. You can ask any questions. If Brazil is okay, if I like to live here, about the workshop itself, any questions I can ask. I can answer you.
Yeah, you can also put it on channels on our chat, maybe. It will be easier to copy that. Yeah.
If I
Okay.
may jump in before, because one of the things there is a little contest we like to run over these workshops, and I would like to tell a few words about it. But before jumping into the contest, I would like to give you all, everyone here, a warm welcome. People from Krakow, Poland, and I see lots of faces from all over the world. Marta, thank you for hosting us here. If I may introduce myself, I'm Damian Lukasik, an engineering manager from Backbase, where we, together with Elias, are developing one of the, I believe, most wonderful fintech platform for banking industry. I often like to call us that we are AWS for banking. It's so vast platform that I think any customer that we are working with is very pleased with. We just started a few months ago in Poland. We are establishing a new site here with a hub in Krakow, building R&D, customer-focused development teams, all from scratch, all with focus on people that are joining the company. Probably Elias, through his workshop, will show you a couple of, give a glimpse of how we are doing things, what tools from the QA world we are using, but giving a broader perspective, it's all latest versions of the modern cloud native stack like Spring Boot, Kubernetes, service meshes, Swift Android on mobile, it's latest Angular on the front-end side. So, and that's us. Regarding the contest, I think this is one of the most interesting parts for you. The prize is $100 voucher for online learning platforms like Udemy. It's up to, let's say, negotiations with the winner of the contest. So at the end of the contest, Elias will pick a person who give the most, I would say, the best question to him, and we'd like ask this person for contact over the private information to Elias, to me, to Marta, or Jakubiania, who are all here for the whole workshops. That's pretty much it. Elias, the stage is yours, and yeah, everyone enjoy the workshops. Thank you.
Thank you, Damian, and thank you all of you guys to be here. Thank you for this invitation to give this workshop. I really appreciate that. I love sharing content. So for me, it's like one of the things I love to do. And guys, let me starting do what we are doing daily, like sharing my screen, asking if you can see my screen actually. uh, I will share my desktop, and I would like to hear from you guys if you can see this first screen. That is me, the topic. Can you see?
Yes, yes, we can.
Cool. And now you can see my ID.
Yes.
Something like white, and now something black.
Yes.
Cool, cool. I will send to you guys. Let me see before I start. I will show some slides. Let me explain the dynamic of this workshop. I will show some slides to give you what we are going to do, some comments, some code, and how the things work with RestAssured. And we will have small, not breaks, but small activities. So we are going to stop. We're going to do these activities in your site, and after that we will jump to the next topic, and we're going to do like this. Okay. Usually we do workshops, and face to face. I can see your computer, something like this. But if you face some problem, please shout, open your mic, tell me what is wrong, or send it to the chat so I can help you with something. But one thing that I would like to say is there are some preconditions you should follow before. And unfortunately, I cannot help you to solve something on that preconditions because we had a lot of time to like follow these preconditions and send some questions if you had some trouble on that. Okay. And chat is here. I will send you a link. You can download this. This is my actual slides, and you can follow it during this workshop or later on, of course. If you try to do more things regarding this workshop, you can follow this, you can do it, okay? So first thing, my name is Elias. I'm a software engineer. I work at a company called Backbase. I work as a principal engineer there. I'm living here in Utrecht. And if you grab your phone or if you try to type this little thing, bit.ly Elias Nogueira, you can find all my social activities, my past presentations, some videos, some content that I posted, my social profile. So you can follow me. And if you would like to receive some content regarding quality engineering, quality assurance, okay? At least daily, I'm posting some links regarding quality assurance. Some are not mine. Some are some links that I'm reading every day. So you can have this content. You can see the same content I'm reading to improve myself and my career as well. Cool. So let me start with the basic things. Okay, so just REST API concepts. REST API simplifies all the development supporting HTTP methods, error handling, RESTful conventions, and it's exposed some resource, like resource is something we expose through URLs, okay? So it's completely independent of the programming languages, which is cool. We can implement it in any programming language. It supports different implementations of the HTTP methods, and it can be represented by different ways or types like HTML, JSON, which is the most common one, XML, or other types, okay? And we have most of the time, the base concept is a client-server architecture. It uses some stateless interactions, so we don't record the interactions between the client and the server. Okay, between those requests, we communicate this over the HTTP request, and we have a lot of different methods. I added here in bold which one we are using more, like CRUD operations, get, post, put, and delete. we can manipulate different resources, and we have some status codes to follow, which are representing different things, like which are informing you something, which are showing you some client errors or server errors, and so on. Okay. And concept regarding testing. If you have some questions, I'm looking to the chat. Sometimes I'm looking in the right direction, so I'm take a look on the chat. Okay. So everyone, I think, knows about the testing pyramid. The testing pyramid is a metaphor that is still living. There's a lot of content about the testing pyramid, and we are still discussing the testing pyramid, but it's a concept or a metaphor that we can follow or not follow, or we can create our own way to like create this test pyramid. But you can see that in the original test pyramid, we have unit test, service test, and UI test. Where is the API tests? API tests are in this middle of this pyramid, like service tests. And there's another metaphor regarding this pyramid created by Alistair Scott, which is representing the API here, is breaking down the service layer into automated component tests, integration tests, and automated API tests. And it's really important today test this API, because we know that like almost everything right now it's running through APIs in a monolith or in microservices. And right now, the whole architecture is based, not right now, but most of the companies create some APIs to deliver some functionalities, right? Some are monoliths, but we are talking about here microservices. So each API has their own functionality, and most of the time we need to assume that is already tested in the unit level, right? Because like as a QA engineer role, we don't know how to do this, and the best person to do this is the backend developer for that application, so he can create some unit tests and make sure it's working in certain conditions. But our focus will be on functional testing. We also need to test this function of each API we have to make sure it's working according all the requirements we have, all the acceptance criteria we have. But there's also two other testing types to follow from the API perspective. We are not going to do this here, but just make sure you can know this. It's the contract testing and end-to-end testing. Okay, so the contract testing will guarantee that we can communicate without with the other APIs without any problem. And the end-to-end testing will guarantee that we can use different APIs to try to mimic, to simulate a user action on the UI interface. So we don't have UI interface with the APIs, but the UI is actually consuming different APIs and doing something in the UI. So it's pretty important we can do this test as well, because we can decrease the amount of tests we can create in the front-end level, which is like slow comparing to the API level. Okay. So I will explain right now our system under test. We are going to test an API, and I will show to you more or less how this API works through the user interface, because it's easier right now to understand this, seeing some screens, okay? I'm Brazilian, so I'm doing something like a particular with the Brazilian thing, but we have like this application that can simulate a loan. You can grab some money from some bank or from somewhere, and we need to fill, we call it CPF. CPF, the social security number. Every country has this, and in Brazil we call it CPF, okay? And we can fill in the CPF. If I have a restriction, this will show to me that the CPF has a restriction, so you cannot get a loan. Or if I don't have any restriction regarding my my financial or any problem, I can jump to the next screen where I can fill in my data and I can take a loan. Okay, so I can have I have some data here like CPF, name, email, amount, installments, and with or without insurance, and I will fill in this. And after that, I have some CRUD operations. I can delete, I can edit, I can do something like pretty much CRUD operations here, okay? So our focus will be try to do this form, this part of the form. Actually, the API has two endpoints. This first endpoint, that is we'll try to simulate and we'll see if we have a restriction. And the second part is this part we can fill in all the data and can manipulate. We'll focus on this one because we can do most of the HTTP methods operations on this one, okay? And we have the backend application, okay? So the backend application I created on Spring Boot. Just make sure you can you know the backend tool that I created, and we can run this backend application running a simple Java command. So in the preconditions, you could see that you could download this particular API and you can start it, okay? So I can see that it will be started when I can see like application has started, helpdesk. Okay. And now we have our first interaction. How will be the interactions here, the actions? I will read these interactions for you. And probably you have the slide link you can follow in your machine as well. I will do this operation. I will give you some time, like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes to do it. And I will jump to the next session, okay? So this, what we need to do, we will open our terminal or command prompt, whatever the operational system you are using. We are going to run the following command, java -jar, the name of the jar file. I added this version because it's the current is the version of the API. So if you download it, there's a version there. So I'm constantly updating these versions, but we're going to see that how we can like place the version here. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to my terminal here. I will increase the font for you. I will jump to my download folder and I have listed here my application, credit API 1.4.7. And what I'm going to do, Java jar credit, I will press tab to autocomplete. And I will press enter and I will wait until I can see happy tests. Okay, so you can see happy tests here. So let me just increase this. Yeah. So application has started happy tests. So my backend is up and running. Okay. So I will stay in this slide. I will give to you, and I will add here the timer, 1 minute to do this, to do the same, okay? And after 1 minute, I will jump to the next slide. And if you have some trouble, you can put in the chat, please. Counting. There's a question that I will answer here in this meantime from Rafael. Rafael's Brazilian one. Oi, Rafael. As a QA, how we can sell the contract and API testing strategy to the team to implement it when the team is trying to focus on UI. You can sell doing. Actually, if you try to do, let me answer this question in the end because I will take more than 1 minute to answer to you, but it's a really good question. How we can like starting doing API testing when they are trying to push you to do more UI testing. It's awesome question, by the way. So I think you can hear the timer is over. So let's jump to the next one. The API documentation. I know for sure, and I saw some companies doing that because I also act as a consultant. When they are creating some APIs and they are not creating the API documentation, we usually know the name of Swagger or OpenAPI, which is the same thing, and this is the OpenAPI documentation, the API documentation itself, and we must have it. Otherwise, we will be lost. The communication will increase, the time will increase, and we are going to have some troubles trying to automate the APIs. So the API documentation usually have everything documented, like URIs, parameters, headers, responses. And it's important to know how to read it because we are going to use it every day to create our test automation, okay? And make this request and see the response. And basically, this documentation is splitted in resource and models. So this is the API documentation for my API. We have like restrictions and simulations, endpoints, and you've had a section with models. And how we can access this documentation? We can access using this follow URL. Localhost 2.8088. So you can follow and open the API, okay? So what we are going to do, we are going to open this API. As the API is responding on the 8088, we need to access specifically the documentation of it. So the specific documentation of it, it's on Swagger UI. So if I will copy and paste this one. I will paste here. Whoops. What is wrong? Swagger UI. It's not. Don't tell me that I need to put index.html here. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but thank you, Poet, or something like this. Sorry for that. I'm really bad with names, but thank you so much. That's what I love doing workshop. We can help each other. So this is the API documentation, and I will give you 30 seconds to access the API documentation. And we can go to the next slide later. Why did 30 minutes? Jesus. Cool, another question here. Yeah, it's a big one. I will try to answer this in the end as well, okay? So it's ended. Okay. So what are we going to do next? We have the API here up and running with the documentation. So we have two different things, endpoint and models. Endpoint are the endpoints are actually what you're going to hit and sending some information, and this endpoint will respond to you with some information as well. And the models is actually the data you are going to either post, send, or consume from these endpoints, okay? So there's these two differences. And here on the simulations part, which is our focus, we have the get, post, another get, button, delete. We have all the endpoints, and we can see that endpoint is, we can see the HTTP method, the URL, which is the base path, but we are going to discuss that, and a description of this endpoint. And if I go inside an endpoint, I can see a lot of different things. Like first, you can see the HTTP method. On this screen is but. You can see the URL. You can see that we have a path parameter here, which is CPF. We can see we have another parameter. It's called simulation, which is object as body and has this example. and we have the content type, which is application.json. So it's a lot of information from the API, and we need to know all this information to be able to start the automation, okay? And we have this first part is the request itself, and the second part is the response. So if I do everything, I can, the API, the endpoint can respond with this stats code, which is like simulation was okay. I could like send the simulation and it was successful. I have 404 like not found, or I have 409 that is like CPI for the resource already exists. So I can see at least 3 different test cases to implement here through this API. And I know if like it's successful, I can see which data it will return for me. And if there's no data like 404 or 409, there is no data returning, I just need to validate the status code here. Okay. So I'm going to talk about Postman first. Why? Honestly, it's my personal opinion, guys. I don't like Postman to do testing because I prefer create testing as a code, like with RestAssured. I know not most of the people, some people are using Postman and using Newman to run all the API tests. I really prefer programming language to do it because we can do a lot of different things. Okay, but we can still use Postman just to check first if everything is working, doing some requests, and after that we can jump into RestAssured and do whatever we want. At Backbase, we are most of the teams, I would say 80-90% of the teams are not using Postman, and we are only looking to the API documentation and starting coding, because for us, like, it's easier than create Postman collections after that, try to automate that. But we are going to use Postman here, just make sure all the API, all the endpoints are working. So yeah, I already told you this. So how Postman works, if you don't know, we have Postman, we have the method, like the number 1 here. We have the URL to send. We have the button to send the request. We can send some query parameters or path parameters or whatever the parameters we want to send. And after that, we have the status code, the item 5, that is the response status. And item 6 is the actual response from this endpoint, okay? So with Postman, I can send a request and see the response. And after that, if everything is fine, according to the documentation, I can automate that. Cool. So this is only the explanation, okay? But one thing to make sure, you can see in the item 2 that I have the full URL, like localhost 8088 /API/version1/simulations. I will show to you why you have this API version 1 simulations, but we need to add the full URL to make the request, okay? And like we need to send something to Postman, right? To make a request, we need to see the documentation, and we need to see some aspects of the documentation, and after that we can start. Like if I need to use this endpoint, the get, I know that the get is the method. The API version 1 simulations is the path that I need to append after the localhost and the port. And it should respond to me with 200 code and this more or less this example, okay, this example value. And this is also the explanation I give to you. This only on this slide. I will skip this one. And we have an actual action required here. So we will access the API documentation first. After, we are going to check this get for the simulations. We are going to check the request and response. We are going to open Postman. We are going to select HTTP method as get. We are going to add this URL in the Postman. We are going to hit the send button. And we are going to see if the status code is 200 and if the response body is more or less the same as the example value. Okay, cool. How we can do it? First I will do it, and after that I will give some time to do it as well. Let me open Postman because I don't have it open here. It's a shame. And let me go through the API. Let me increase the font here. First, I'm going to the simulations, and I will hit the first one, the get API version 1 simulations. Okay, and I can see I can send a name as parameter, but I will skip that right now. And if I just send this, actually, it would respond like simulations found 200 with this example value. If it's not found, it will return a 404 status code, okay? But it will make the request to see if there's something there. Cool. So what I need to do, I need to send a get for this API version 1 simulations, and I need to see if the response matches this one here. Cool. So I will go to the Postman. I will increase here as well. I will close this. And what I'm going to do, the method here is get. So I will select get, and I need to enter the full URL. So localhost, the port 8088, API version 1 simulations. Okay, you can see every time we need to put this localhost and the port, and after that is the API endpoint. And I cannot see the send. Okay, I will click on the send button, and I can see that is responding as status code 200, and the body responded with two different data, Tom and James. Okay, so I can see that it's okay. Like it has ID, name, CPF, email, amount, installments, insurance, and my documentation as well have this. We are missing only the ID here, which should be an issue that we should report as well or not on the API documentation, or either on API documentation or in our backend application. But we have amount, CPF, email, installment, insurance, and name, everything here. Cool. So I will give you 2 minutes to do this, and I will jump to the next topic, okay? And if you have some questions, you can write down here, or you can open your mic and ask to me. And I can put some music in the background. And guys, please provide me a feedback if you can, if I'm going too fast or not, if it's okay, like the way I'm doing this workshop. Otherwise, I can go slow, or I can continue the same pace. I will answer the first thing that Paulo sent. What types of design patterns would you recommend to build a pretty simple, good maintainable, scalable framework for not a big application? I can name some. I will name it later. But I have a project on my GitHub that is called RestAssured Complete Basic Example. You can see a test automation with RestAssured for this API with a lot of design patterns there. The basic design patterns we want to apply for small projects. So you can, if you can access later my GitHub account, you can see that project there. and you can have a lot of examples as well. But I can name, I will name some design patterns later. Cool, time is over. So easy one, right? And now, congratulations, guys. We can start the test automation right now because we know right now how to enable our backend application. Most of the time, your team has a specific way to enable it, or there's fixed endpoints to consume, no problem. After that, we discovered, we learned about the open API documentation. I know it was really fast, but just to make sure you can know what it is. And after that, we hit an endpoint using Postman just to check if we can match the request and the response according the open API documentation. And right now we can go and we can jump directly to RestAssured to start to automate that. Okay. So what about RestAssured? I would talk about RestAssured, but if you guys are not used to use Java and you would like to use another tool, no problem. You can apply all these concepts and use the same backend application with your preferred programming language, but RestAssured is now currently available for Java, .NET, and Kotlin. So if you would like to do something like with JavaScript, with Go, or with another programming language, there's another framework, but pretty much they are the same. Okay, you can achieve the same results with any other framework, but RestAssured is pretty stable one, and I think it's one of the oldest ones. So what a RestAssured is a DSL to simplify all the test automation creation for REST-based services. It has an intuitive code syntax to create those tests, and we can express something in the natural language. Like given I have a parameter to send, when I send a request using an HTTP method and URL, then I can validate the stats code and response. It's pretty much how RestAssured works and other tool works. But you can see this is a gherkin approach that we sometimes related to BDD. It's not my intention here to talk about BDD or gherkin or Cucumber or any other tool like this. I will just create code without any other abstraction layer like Cucumber or using gherkin, okay? But this syntax like given, when, then, and how we can use this on RestAssured will drive us to write the code. So this is a complete example with RestAssured. And how it works? It's pretty simple, guys. First, it's Java, so we need to import some libraries. Most of the time we import two different ones, the RestAssured one and the Handcrest matchers to try to validate with like is equal to or any other methods to validate the response. After that, we have the class and we have the test. So I will use Unit 5 in our application and test application. So I have the test here and the test method as well. And it starts like if you have some preconditions in the API, precondition in the API is most of the time request parameters that can be in different ways. I will show to you the different ways. But if I have a request, here I have, it's a request, it's a parameter called name, and I'm sending the value of this parameter, which is Elias. So given I have parent name with the value I'm sending is Elias. And this is the action. When I post for this endpoint register, then I need to assure that response is one of the expected ones. So then stats code is 200 and the body has an attribute called message, and the message is hello Elias. Pretty simple, huh? So what we have here, let me jump to this one. We have a given when then that is not BDD, but like I can like read the code and it says Java code. Java code is one of the most difficult to learn, but I can see given I have a parent name with the value Elias, when I post on the register endpoint, then status code is 200 and the body has an attribute message with this hello Elias value. So it's pretty simple, and we are going to do this to test an API with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines of code, and we can have a test automation for REST API with Java. Okay. So the first thing to start the automation is how to get all the records, all the registers there inside the API. And normally it's related to get endpoints. And most of the time in the API structure, we have two different get endpoints. We have a get endpoint with nothing to consume all the data inside, or we have a get endpoint with some parameters to filter or to search for something inside the database or inside any other thing, like, and we can like filter or search those data. Okay, we are going to do first all the records because it's the most difficult one, and when we are done with the most difficult one, the other ones will be really easy. Okay, but what we are going to do, like, to automate this, we should consume get to the API version 1 simulations. That is no parameter, nothing there. So there is no precondition. We don't need to use the given part for now. And the when part will be the request. So the request will be the get method pointing to the endpoint, but with the full URL. And the response should be the status code validation and the response body the same as the example value. So this is the script we are going to create. Okay, it is scary at the first time, but it's really easy to do. Just make sure I will do this first. I will have the step-by-step guide, and you guys can do in your machine as well. Okay. So just to explain to you, can you see that? Let's go here. On the status, on the response body, the status is 200, but the example value start with as an array, right? It's not with the it's with the brackets. It's not with the brackets. That is an object, but it starts with an array. So it can it indicates me that it can return more than one object. That is true because when I get one or more data, it should be listed, right? So how we can handle this? When we see something like this, like our API is returning two objects, right? The Tom and the James, and you can see that it starts as an array and have two different objects starting with the brackets. The first one, we need to add a position for an array. So the first one, array start on 0, right? So the first position is 0. The second position is 1. And to validate this body, how we can validate this body? We are going to do this, but the body, I need to pass the attribute name and the value we are going to test with this equal to or is, okay? But in this particular case, I need to tag to fix the position that we are going to look to do this validation. So in the array position 1 on CPF should be this number. So it's this number on the left side. The name of the first position in this object array should be Tom, and it's Tom. And the email and the first position is the same, okay? But I'm pretty sure that seeing complex, it's like this image, right? How to draw O, like draw two circles, and after that, draw the rest of the dumb O. So it's pretty much like this, but we are going to do it step by step, so we'll make it in the end. And the following ones will be really easy for you. So first, we need to do what? And I will do this first, and after that, you can do it. We are going to create a class inside credit API package on the project. So if you don't have the project opened, open the project in this particular package. we are going to name this simulations test. We are going to add the required imports, which are these ones. We are going to create a test method named get all simulations with the annotation for the JUnit and the method here. Okay, so I will do it step by step as well. And after that, I'll give you some time to do the same. So I will jump into my IDE, and on source test Java credit API, I will right click, new class on my ID. I'm using an IntelliJ ID, by the way. So the name is, I forgot, is the simulations test. Simulations test. And I have it here. No, I will want add to the GitHub, and I will just increase this. Yeah, cool. Okay, so I have here the class, and after that, I need to add the required imports. For sure, I will copy and paste. But one thing regarding copy and paste, guys, I will copy and paste. Just make sure the three last ones, dot, star, and I forgot the name, but yeah, you can type it again, because sometimes when we copy and paste, it's getting from the other format or other ask position. Whoops. So, okay, I have everything here. And after that, I need to create get all simulations test. So I will add like void get all simulations, open parentheses, open brackets, and at what I'm going to do here, it's Java and my IDE can autocomplete. I will write test, and I need to press enter or double click in this or JUnit Jupyter API, so it will import automatically for me. It's really important, okay? And I have here, I can just remove this public because JUnit 5 doesn't want this public explicitly. And I have my first step of this, this action, okay? So I'll give you 2 minutes to do the same. And if you have some trouble, you can see on the, here on the screen, everything is here. You can try to follow the same, but try to do as we have as steps, okay? Create a class, add the imports, and create the methods. So 2 minutes. And let me answer the question. The first one, still continue to answer the question. Some design patterns in use for a small project. I always am using a data factory approach, test data factory approach, to create the data for me to use in the test instead of open the script, update the data, and run the script so we can have it automated. I'm using factories, I'm using builders, just to make sure I can use my code in a better way. I'm using as well some properties management or some configurations management to be able to, instead of have some like endpoints or something like this fixed, I have external files like property files, YAML files, XML files, JSON files, and I can easily import that. It's also a big deal. And log management as well. And other design patterns, it's like when you have this necessity to use. And how to effectively handle a response which has super nested like object in the haze and so on. Creating, we are going to do this here, but creating models, creating classes that can model the same response that you have. And you can use for RestAssured something like call it serialization, deserialization, automatic serialization, deserialization, and RestAssured will match all these things to you, for you. Okay, this is like not the easy one because if you have super nested objects, we need to mimic the same, but RestAssured can take care of for you this later. So it's like a composition in the class. So it depends on a lot of other objects, and Lombok can help you. Yeah, you're using Lombok, perfect. Okay, 2 minutes has passed. Do you guys need more time or that's okay? I really need your feedback right now. No? No feedback? No? So I will continue. Okay, now it's okay for me. Mikhail, okay, thank you. So the next step is, yeah, now do everything. But I will do one thing and you can please follow the same, okay? First, let's see, we need to do the when using the get method. So I go to my code and here I will type when, and you can see my autocomplete is recognizing the when method. Now you press dot when get, and now you press enter, and now you let this red line here, no problem right now. Now you add double quotes and HTTP localhost the port 8088 slash and slash API version 1 simulations. So API slash version 1 slash simulations. And that's it for now. So guys, please try to do the same right now. I will give you some seconds, some 1 minute to write this first part. Just make sure in the case we cannot make all the exercise, all the things we have here. Don't worry, everything is explained in this PDF that I sent to you guys. So it's okay, and you can all the time reach me out on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on my social networks to ask me questions and ask for help. I will help you, okay? Cool. So what we need to do after, do the validation, right? Because this is the request as the same we have for this API, right? Get API version 1 simulations. We are not passing this parameter, and it will respond with a simulations file. This is only a description, but 200 as stats code. And this kind of values. So what I need to do now, I will add a dot. I will press ask, and I will write down them, and after the then dot, and after that status code, and I will place 200, okay, and I will give you more like some seconds to do the same. I just like break, add a dot and break without dots because it's my style, but we can like do, or no, you can do like this, add the dot before, doesn't matter, okay? It's only my code style, actually. Just add then and dot stat code and 200 inside as a parameter. Okay, now is the, not the best part, it's the best part because it's the validation, but yeah, it's a long one. What I'm going to do, I would add dot, and I added the stats code verification. I need to add the body verification, body. So I will add body here, and just make sure body has all the time 2 parameters, okay? The first one is, let me just go to this. The first parameter I will just write down here is the attribute name, the second one is the method, is the validator method with the actual value for that, okay? What is the attribute name? If we go to Postman, where is my Postman? Here, you can see that I have ID, but we are not going to validate the ID. I have like name is attribute name. CPF is attribute name. And email is the attribute name. And what is the attribute value? The following data, like tom@gmail.com. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I will add here attribute name as name, right? And validation, I will write down equals to and I will add double quotes, and the name is Tom, right? This is the first validation for one attribute. But remember, we have here an array, right? So we need to fix the first position. So what I'm going to do, name 0 dot, okay? So I have this name as Tom in the first position. I will do one more. I will just add this to my coding style. Just make sure it's better to view it. Like stats code here and the body here. And now I can add another body method. Oops. And I will break into the next line, and I will do like the same for the second. So after name, I put Postman here, I have the CPF. So I will add here CPF and comma and equal to and this value. Okay. So guys, do these two first. I'll give more 40 seconds or 1 minute, and I will do all the other ones, and I give you some time to do all the other ones as well. Okay, so I'm counting now. And let's see another question. It's common to verify the status code with the endpoint test methods or rather than to do all assertions in the test method. Both, always both, okay? It's better to verify the stats code and the test method and the assertions in the test methods. If you create some test architecture where you have like thousands of APIs like we have in Backbase, we sometimes do only the assertion stats code on a different client, and we let the test verify only the response code, the response body. Okay. But it depends on your context, depends on your project, depends on the way you want to create this. Andre asked something that I don't really know. Sorry for that, Andre. But Andre asked if RestAssured can support GraphQL APIs. Shame on me, but I never worked with GraphQL, and I don't know if it's supported. If someone knows, please can write down and can help me and help Andre as well. Cool, guys. 1 minute has passed, so what I'm going to do? Now the same for everything. Like I will do it faster, but I will do first. I will get email with, oops. Email is tom@gmail.com. So email. And after that, I have amount. Oops. And after that, I have installments. We copy this big. and it's free. And I look, I will remove this, and I will remove this because it's not text, it's a monetary amount, and it's a integer value, is a number value, and insurance is true or false. So insurance true. And look, we are masters in copy paste, right? I will paste the whole thing, and I will just replace by 1 here. Probably you're going to do the same. And we'll add the following other values, like James, like this, CPF, the email, the amount, installments is 5, and insurance false. And I will just indenting here, and the last thing is a comma, ending, yeah, and that's it. Don't run this code yet, but because I have one more explanation for this, okay? So what you are going to do, you're going to do the same as I did, the validation, the rest of the validations for the first object, and the validations for the second object, but just make sure you can change the array position and of course the value for that second position of the array, okay? So I'll give you 3 minutes, and it's starting now. It's like the Google Assistant says, right? There's more questions. If one of the guys just not, I can do it. I will. Let me open something to copy and paste. Oops. The question so I can find it easier later. Okay. And I can say to you guys, if I cannot answer all your questions, you can either send to me through the social networks, or yeah, I can try to answer anyway, sending like the answers through my social network as well, where you can tag, it was me. Let me copy everything here, copy. Yeah. GraphQL, I don't know. Sorry, Rafael. And Rafael. And this is the Lucas. Oops. Copy. And fill. And oh, thank you, Damian. Thank you. So Rafael sent a question. How would you organize test case based on Swagger, for instance? My first thought would be each test or an endpoint, but it's not, I'm quite sure. It really depends. Actually, there's, I can see on, 2 different approaches. You can create one test class for one endpoint, or you can like have one big, actually you can like, sorry, you can create one test class for the endpoint name and have all the HTTP methods there, or you can create a package with the endpoint name, and the class will be the methods, because like for get, we can have different validations on that. For a pod, you can have different validations on that, and separate like in different methods, the different status code for that specifically HTTP methods. I'm right now using a class for the whole endpoint. I'm doing all the tests inside that endpoint. And of course, I'm tagging them to like filter when I'm running the tests. Does this answer your question, Rafael? Cool, thank you. So 3 minutes has passed. So do you guys need more minutes or it's okay? It's okay. Jacob, okay. Claudia, cool. Cool, guys. Let me jump to the slide before we can, whoops, we can run this. Yeah, let me just see. Yeah, I didn't explain this. I will explain right now. With RestAssured, you can see something like I run through Postman and it's given to me the amount like with the decimal notation, right? Dot 00. And you can see here dot 00. It's a pretty common thing when you have amounts, even in Java, because it's, yeah, we can better express this. But for RestAssured, we need to replace, if we end with the decimals as 0, we can replace it and add an F in both. And it only will work for some case with this. Because why? Because RestAssured behind the scenes see big decimal or decimal amount, and it needs to be converted internally as a decimal amount or a float amount. The basic thing for RestAssured is a decimal amount with decimal class in Java. So to add decimal classes, whatever we want, we can add an F in the end, which means float, but it's almost the same in Java with the decimals to make sure RestAssured can convert internally the objects and assert it. There's another way we can do it with big decimals in Java, but a little more complex. It is not our scope here, but right now is this. But everything is inside the RestAssured documentation. You can see there's an explanation about this F and about big decimal, okay? But okay, I have it here. Let me just decrease a little bit the font. And of course, what we need to do now is, run it, right? I can either on my IDE click on the run button. So I will run this. And it's parsing, it's Java, you will do a lot of different things. And bam, connection refused. This is good because we can see our first issue. I've tried to run and I'm getting a connection refused. When I get a connection refused, it's I have the whole thing here, and it's because it's not accepting this one, right? I'm adding HTTP here, and I had localhost, everything. I'm missing one thing. Do you know what I'm missing here? It's a tricky. I did it not by mistake. Pure or send yes is the / after the HTTP. Or if I added here, but like if I have a typo, like instead of simulations with the S in the end, only simulation. And if I try to run it, I will get the same. Because that endpoint does not exist. So connection refused. I refuse your connection because it doesn't exist. So if I add the S here, now yes, now it will run. No, because I added the 2 dots in the wrong position. Now we will run. Cool. It ran, right? And what I can see that it's a green for all simulations and nothing on my console. But Elias, there is nothing. Yes, there is nothing. Don't need nothing because everything is run okay. Cool. So guys, make sure you have the correct URL and run your test. And I will show to you how we can figure out when it fails. Okay. 1 more minute to make you run this and see the screen mark that's running okay. And we can talk about if we have some validation issues here. Let's see, there's a question from Lucas right here. Gus, 2 questions. How to deal with serialization and deserialization when request and response payload are almost the same, but in response we have, for example, 1 extra parameter. You need to create different objects. For sure, because it's almost the same, but an extra parameter you should create. And it's common, right? When we have like version 1 or version 2 from an API, we have some new fields in the version 2 sometimes, and you need to model the same object with that new attributes, okay, or parameters. So most of the time I'm dividing it in different packages, calling, okay, this is the version 1, this is the version 2, those are the objects, and I adding as a payload. This is the way I'm doing, actually. There's a lot of different ways you can try to figure out, but for me, this is the easiest way, okay? And there's the second question. I will answer you later, okay, Lucas? So probably you guys run this code. So I will do one thing here. Instead of 3 on installments, I will add 100. And I will run it again. And we will see the validation issue. There's a lot of issues here. But if you scroll down a little bit, you can see an assertion issue right here. Like one expectation failed, JSON path for 0 installments doesn't match. So expected is 100, but actual is 3. It's matching the response that is coming, and okay, it's not 100, it's 3. Is it correct or not? We should define, let's say the 3 is correct, so maybe we have an issue on our code or inside the backend code, okay? So this is the way we can, this is the way, right, Mando? This is the way we can see the issues we are going to have on the test execution. Most of the time will be like assumption issues. Cool? So I will give you like 30 seconds to do this, the same validation, and we can jump to the next one. I told you this would be the difficult one, the next one will be easy. And make sure you can revert back the correct value or not, no problem. Cool, guys? Now we have our first test automated with RestAssured. And I would ask a feedback how difficult it is for you guys before I can jump to the next slide. If you can provide some feedback on this chat or open your mic, it's okay. And just make sure until you can write your feedback, you can see I'm applying a code style here. That's my style. When I wrote some code with RestAssured, like I add in the same alignment the when and the then, and the other ones like alignment like the same. Okay. For me, it's better to view the code and understand what I'm doing. Cool. I will just yep. We'll jump to the slide again. And we did our first one. Cool. And now we have how we can get only one record. Okay. So usually we can find on the API the difference between the different gets. And most of the time we are filtering or searching for something, we are filtering. We can apply a unique value, a primary key, to find something, right? To get only one result. So you can see on the API, we have another get, but you can see in the end, we have a CPF in brackets, right? This is, we call it a parameter. And this is like the key we are going to search, and we'll search for this CPF, for this social security number, okay? But we need to take a look on the documentation first, and after that we can start to automate that. So on in the documentation, we can see like the get for that ends with the CPF. We have here described a CPF, which is a string. You can see the second purple box, and we have it called as path. So we can call it this path parameter. Why is a path parameter? Because it's on the path of the endpoint, right? And it will respond as an object. And you can see there is no array anymore, because if I'm trying to find something for the primary key, which is unique, it should return only one data, one object for that. Okay, so just make sure the same, not Postman, the documentation. I will go through the get that has this CPF in brackets, and I can see here the name is CPF. It's really important. The type, the content I will send is a string, is a text, and it's a path parameter. So it should be placed inside together with the endpoint. And it will respond with 200 and this object. Amount, CPF, email, installment, insurance, name, with brackets, which is an object without an array. And if nothing, there is no primary key, there is no this data we are going to send to filter, it will return 404, nothing found. Okay, so let's jump to the slides. First, we are going to do this on Postman. So we are going to make another request to get simulations, but instead of only do for the simulations, we need to add the CPF, right? That is in brackets, that name. But on Postman, we should replace that by the value we should send. And I will send this value. And when I send this request, I will see the stats code 200 and the response body with all that data. Okay, so I will just copy this to not missing. And I have actually the same, but I will add a slash value, and I will hit send. And what happened? I have stats code 200, and I have only one object here that is not an array. It's only one object, which is done. That is match with this CPF here, this attribute. Okay, so 1 minute for you to do this, and I will jump to the RestAssured part. And let's see the questions, the second questions. What we should avoid while using with RestAssured. I would say we should avoid try to use JSON objects like the class that most of you guys can see in some articles on the internet. The best thing to do is deserialization that we are going to show. I'm going to show to you here. I think it's the worst thing. And the second worst thing, not worst thing to try to avoid, is try to add the log for everything. If you see some articles, most of the articles on the internet, you can see the request and the response, and that is has a .log to log the request and log the response. You only need it when it fails, and RestAssured has one specific method to do all the time the logging for you if the request or response fails. So we don't need to append log. So it will like add a lot of logs on your console, in your logs system or log file. So it's not that good. And other things, I cannot remember other things for now. Lucas. Cool. what we will do now. Let's jump to this slide. Okay. And we are going to learn how to play with this on RestAssured. We know that this parameter, CPF, it's a path one, right? You can see path below the string. And RestAssured has something related to path. But first of all, we need to send a precondition, right? Because we have on the request, we need to add some data. And now we have the preconditions to send. So now we can use the given method, and given, like I have a path param, and I need to send the parameter name and the parameter value. After that, I can use when.get or another methods, okay? Parameter name is the name of the parameter given. In our case, according to the documentation, is CPF. And we should pass a value on that. That can be an existing one, like this one we sent, right? 6641, etc. Cool. So it's really easy. So given, I'm sending a path parameter with following name, following value. And of course, in your test, we need to pass a path param as CPF, that is the parameter name, according to our documentation, and the value, okay? But when we do the request, when we do the when.get, and we are going to pass the full URL, we are going to add the brackets and the CPF, the same we have on the endpoint documentation. Why? Because RestAssured we'll see, okay, we'll have a brackets with this name, CPF. RestAssured will try to find a given with a path param, which this content on brackets matches with the parameter name. And if it's matched, it will be replaced by the value. This we could add the full value on the RestAssured request, but it's not the good approach because it's a data and we can play with different data. The best approach to do is add a precondition with path param instead of adding or concatenating there. Okay, this is the best way to do with RestAssured. Okay, guys. So just to make sure, again, I will put like a path parameter, CPF, and the value, and on the get endpoint, on the end of the URL, will be the same as we have on documentation with RestAssured, because RestAssured will try to find the CPF and match with the path param, and CPF exists, and it will be replacing this part with brackets with this value. Cool. I will answer a question in a minute. So the next thing is create our next method in our class. So on the same test, we are going to create a method called getOneSimulation with the add test. So what I'm going to do, IntelliJ. Let me increase font size here. And after that method, I will create void. It's called getOneSimulation. GetOneSimulation. And I will add the add test here as well. Cool. It's the first part of the exercise. So one more minute for you guys to do the same. Add on the same class this test method, and we are going to start to automate this. Let me answer first the poll as well. Using what approach are you using to name a particular method? Any annotations would be recommended to know which test methods was run or failed. I'm using the clean code approach, and I don't remember the post I shared a lot of times. There is a post on Json that a guy showed different ways to name it, the test methods, according to the best practice on the clean code. Actually, I'm using like natural language, like I'm expressing like get one simulation that fails with 200 such code, something like this. But I will show to you guys one annotation with J25 that you can like express it in the better way. Okay, 1 minute and not IntelliJ, it's preview. And now what we need to do, we need to make the request with the path parent, and we need to validate the body with that data, okay? Of course, we are validating the same thing we validated before, but just make sure we can, we are going to do the in different endpoints. It's not the intention here to play with different things. It's the pretty basic workshop. So we are going to like, yeah, this, let's say this validation is duplicated because we already did in the previous one, okay? But how we can do this? First of all, I'm going to start, let me just add it, yeah, and increase the font. And I will start with the given, my precondition, right? Given I have a path parent. And what is the name of my path parent? Again, I will see the documentation is the CPF. So I will, not this one, CPF. And I need to pass the value for that. And the value is this amount, not amount, this social security number. Cool. Now we can make the request. Dot when let me just, yeah, but in the, yeah, my indentation. And when I get, and look now at my get. I will add the HTTP localhost port API version 1 simulations and the CPF in brackets, because it's the same way we have here on my endpoint. Okay. And what I'm going to do now, after that, so then dot stat code is 200 according to the documentation. And now I will have body with, let me see on Postman because we did this, right? With name as tone, oops. And look now, oops, tone. And we don't need to pass that array. What's happening? That array notation, because it's not an array, right? Array, right? It's object. So we can only pass, but it's not directly Tom, sorry for that. It's equal to Tom. And I need to do for, let's see that CPF. It's redundant because we are already passing the CPF here, but I will add anyway, CPF. And email. Yeah, now it's like tedious, but yeah. But you are going to do only one time. This is a test automation, so it's better. So this, but this is amount with the F in the end. Installments 3. And insurance is true. And with the comma here, okay. And now I have my task created. I'm going to run this one, and let's see. No, doesn't match. Look, I forgot to add a 4 in the end because I copied and pasted. So I will run again. And success, great success. So everything's working here. And now I will jump here. Doesn't matter right here, this screen or my screen. I will give you 3 minutes to do the same, okay? To create this test, adding the given with the path parent for CPF with that value, the when with the get, because it's a get, we are testing, but does remember to add these brackets and CPF in the end, and validating with then stats code 200 and all the body with the values using the equal to. But for this one, and it's only one object, we don't have that array notation, so we can add directly the attribute name, okay? 3 minutes, starting now. And by the way, Paul, there's a notation, and that is the same right now. Here is the same. On JUnit 5, it's called a display name. So we can add a better display name, like my little test. And when I run this, instead of get one simulation, it will show my little test instead. This is a good feature from JUnit 5. Paul also has a question how to effectively handle tons of parameters with the request. RestAssured has a feature that we are not going to learn here because it's a basic workshop, but there's something called a request specification. If you have a lot of requests and should be use it in different requests, different tests, you can create a specification, add all those parameters there, and instead of writing down a lot of like 6, 5, 9 parameters, you can use that specification, inject that specification in the given methods, and it will handle for you. This is the most common way we are doing it with RestAssured. So just remove this one, not confusing you guys. Cool. And Paul and guys, there is a request specification, and there is also a response specification. Because like if you have the same response body, like we have here, all the time, name, CPF, email, and so on, we can create a specification and reuse the specification in different tests for the response body, validate response. So there's the same thing for the response as well. It's like advanced, but not that advanced. It's required when we are doing professionally these tests, but it's okay because we are learning. We can learn first the easiest way, and after that we can try to improve it. Cool, guys. 3 minutes is passed. So do you guys need more time, or can I jump to the next one? And I just want to make sure you guys are doing this. I don't know if like there's some guys only seeing what I'm doing and I will try to do it later, or if your guys are doing like the same way as me, like doing it. There's exercise, you can do it, and after that you can explain. And I would recommend you to try to follow it the same and try to do right now the same, because we have like, and right now you have directly access to me and ask some questions and ask something that is going wrong with your code. Cool. Okay, next thing, how to create a record. So we are more or less following the creation, update, create, oh Jesus, the second R is recovering, right? Read, yeah, read or recovering, sorry, yes, thank you. We can create, read, update, and delete. And we are doing the same with the recipes because we have HTML method for that. So we are going to create now. We are only consuming the simulations. One thing that I didn't told you guys, let's jump to the code again. Like when we call it resources in the recipe, the resource usually is this name, simulations, because it's the model or it's the object we are going to pass or receiving from our API. So this is the resource name, simulations, okay? So we can create a resource, which is in this case, simulations. How to create this record or simulation? So first we should see what we have inside our OpenAPI documentation. So if we see here on this image, the first thing is the request body name. You can see that we have, of course, the post method for the API version 1 simulations. And the purple square here, it's saying that I have a request body name. Why? Because the name is simulation, the type is object, and the type is called body. So I have like a body request, okay, or a payload. And what I need to add inside this object, this body, the same attributes we are receiving, right, from the get. Amount, CPF, email, installment, insurance, and name. And we want to send this object, this body, as content type application JSON, okay? And how we can do this? Let's see. To create, of course, according our API documentation, we need to send a JSON object. So I have the JSON notation here with all the data, right? If I need to create a new object, a new simulation with the name John Doe, with this social security number, with this mail, amount, installment, and so on, I need to create a JSON object. Cool. Second thing, we need to send this request with this JSON object, and I'm going to do this with Postman. So we need to send HTML method as post, the URL for that. And on Postman, we are going to pass this object. So we need to go to the body tab. We need to select the haul type. We need to select the content type as JSON, and we need to pass, to paste, or to write down the JSON object for that, okay? How we can do this? It's a small screen I will do in Postman, but first we are going to pass the method as post. The URL, we are going to hit send. After, we are going to click on body, selecting on item 3 haul, and after in the item 4 JSON, and on the item 5 the whole JSON object. And I will see that it will respond as 201 HTTP status, and it will return the headers for me. I will explain it later, but it will return a header, not an object inside the response body, okay? Oops. And when it returns something, I can see on the documentation, instead of response body with some data, it will return for me a simulation created successfully on 201, and the header will be returned with a location attribute, and this location attribute will be the URI to query these created simulations, okay, as type string. And if I jump to the documentations on post, which is the creation, I can see the same, right? I can see I need to use post method with this endpoint, with a simulation. This name, when we have body here, this name is not required. It's just telling that it's a simulation object, okay? And this type is object and should be body. And the body, the data inside should be application JSON and should have these attributes, and those are examples that we can use, okay, values we can use. Cool. And the return for like when it's okay, it will return 201, and it will return a header with a location that is the URI for that created simulation as string. Yeah, I have, of course, other things here. We can see it later. Cool. So I will hit next. And now is the time to do with Postman. So what I'm going to do with Postman, and this is wrong. I will update it later. It's telling get here, but it's the post. Sorry for this, guys. This is get, but it should be post. So we are going to access the API documentation. Just make sure we know what we are going to do for that specific endpoint. We are going to check the post API for that. After that, we are going to open Postman, put the URL, and send body, click on the body tab, add raw, select the JSON item, and we are going to continue. First, I will do this, and you're going to do this as well, guys. So Postman, I will open a new tab. Just make sure I have that one. I will just copy the URL here. I will select first post, the method, and now I will add the URL, right? And I will click on this body tab. And the body tab has like different items to select. So I will select raw, and in the end, there is a combo box here, a drop down here with different types, and I will select JSON. Okay, so I will give you 1 minute to do exactly we have here on the steps. Cool. There's more questions here. Let me see. I will answer this last question the next, okay? It's a good question as well. Okay, guys, time is over. So the next action in the same Postman, now we need to add the JSON object inside the body and hit send and see its status code 201 and the location header. I will copy this, let me copy from this slide, problem. And I will access Postman, and can you see under this body, there's a text box here. You paste And can you see that it's not like I'm missing a comma here? Yeah. And there's an extra comma. So it's not better to copy from this slide because this slide is missing something. It's better you copy from the documentation example. Like here, let me copy this from the documentation, right? And paste. Cool. So I will hit send. And can you see here? Let me decrease a little bit. You can see stats code is created, but you can see that there is nothing in the body, but we know from the documentation there is a additional header. So I'm going to click on the header tab, and I can see on the header that I have a location here, and it indicates the full URL to consume that creation, that resource that was created, okay? So one more minute to do this, and we can jump to the RestAssured part. And Paul, how common is to check other values in the response in addition to the stats code and body? You should verify the values only if it's posted, it's related on your documentation. If your documentation are saying there is an additional header that you should validate that. Otherwise, you don't need to validate that because there's a lot of headers, for example, and there's a lot of different data that maybe you shouldn't validate because it can be changed every time. And that's normal to validate the header only if that it's expressed on your documentation for sure. Cool. Okay. So let's jump to the next topic. That is how we can create a record. So this is a pretty important thing. I will show to you, like I was telling before in the response for one question, that we need to pass an object right now, right, to create this resource. So how we can do with RestAssured? You will see thousands of different articles on the internet telling how you can do it. Most of the time, they will try to use an object called a Json object, but the best thing to do is work with the serialization and deserialization. That is called object mapping in RestAssured. It's placed on the documentation of RestAssured, so I'm really confused sometimes because most of the time I can see the guys writing down some articles, not using the like RestAssured is recommending, is writing down in the other way. So yeah, we don't know. But we can do this object mapping, this serialization, deserialization, using JSON or XML objects, okay? And not object itself, but we can like mimic the same structure of the JSON and the XML and create Java objects for that. And RestAssured will try to convert everything. Like if I send a Java object with the same attribute name as a JSON, RestAssured will see, this Java object looks like a JSON, so I will convert the Java object to a JSON object. So RestAssured will do the job for us. Okay. How we can do this? RestAssured will do this transformation. Like on the left side, I have a class that most of the time we call in Java a model. We are modeling an object. So I call it this object simulation. And I have like a string name, a string CPF, a string email, and big decimal amount, because the way we express in Java some amounts. It's with big decimal right now. I have an integer, installments, and I have a Boolean value, which is insurance. So the serialization, RestAssured will see this class and will create a JSON object matching. Okay, you have a string name, so I have a name here that you can place a string. You have a CPF. Okay, CPF. You have an amount. Okay, here is the amount. It will automatically create this JSON for us. Okay, this is the best way to do. Cool. And how we need to do this, how we can do this actually, when we create a model object in Java, you know that we need to create the getters, the setters, and the constructors. And most of the time, the constructors, we need to create the constructor for 1, 2, 3, all the attributes we have. And if you would like to use the builder pattern, that's really common in Java to use, you need to create a separate class, which is the builder, and place everything there. So it's a lot of code to create. Thanks God, we have a project library called Lombok, when you can only add some annotations in that model, and this Lombok will create all these getters, setters, constructors, and builders for you. So it's really common, use Lombok when we are using RestAssured to create this model object to be serialized or deserialized automatically, to not to enable you to write less code instead of a lot of different codes. Okay, so we have this data notation. This data notation means Lombok will create getters and setters. We have this builder. This builder will tell that we can use the builder pattern for this class. We have this no adds constructors that will create only an input constructor. And we have this all adds constructor that will create a constructor for each item and with all the items. Cool. The first step to implement this test, to create a resource with RestAssured, is to create this object. Okay, so what we are going to do, we're going to create inside the credit API, but the package is different. It's not the test package, it's the main package. We are going to create a class called simulations, and we are going to add all those attributes and the constructor and the annotations from Lombok. Let me do this and explain something to you, and after that you can do this. Okay, so the first thing, IntelliJ, let me open actually the POM XML. The POM XML, I'm using Maven on this project, so POM XML is the file we manage everything with Maven. And I have a dependencies here. A lot of dependencies already placed, and one of the dependencies is Lombok. Here is only the version, and you can see, I will scroll down, I have this dependency, Lombok, here. Okay, so it's already there. We don't need to add this. And if you would like to add this on your professional project, in your job, you should add this dependency. Okay, and let's jump through the code. So I need right now to on the source main Java credit API, right click, new class, simulation in singular. Okay, no, I don't ask again, please. Yep. Now let me increase this. And what I need to do, private, because I don't, I only need this to be accessed by the get methods and the constructor, not directly the attribute name. So string name, and it should have the same attributes as we have in JSON. Okay, private. Now I need to see CPF, private string CPF, private string email, private big decimal, guys. You need to write the first letters, and you can hit enter or double click because it needs to import the big decimal class. Amount, right? And private integer installments and private Boolean as a class, the same. It's insurance, right? And now what I'm going to do, on the top of public class simulations, I will add @ I will write down data with the first letter in capitalized in uppercase, and I will select data from Lombok. And now I will add @builder, and I will click on the builder from Lombok. After that, I will add all args constructor from Lombok, double click, and no args constructor from Lombok, double click. And I have my class created. Just make sure, if I'm not using Lombok, I would create public void get name with get name not void string with return this dot name, and I would create for public void set name string name, and add this dot name it's equal to name. It's not equal, it's receiving. So without Lombok, I would do this for all the attributes and more plus the constructors plus the builder. So it's a lot of time wasting. So with Lombok, just annotations. Cool. So I will give to you more 3 minutes. I think it's okay. In this meantime, I will disappear for a minute just to get more water for me, but I will count 3 minutes here, okay? Starting now. I will come back. And if you have any question, guys, you can shout, no problem. Make sure you don't have any a typo when you are writing down these attributes, okay? Otherwise, you won't match with the same objects we need to pass for this endpoint. Paul wrote here, if I'm using any additional annotation from Lombok, like almost 100% of the time I'm using only these ones, those ones, but you can have toString and other ones, but for this specific thing with serialization, the serialization with RestAssured, we don't need any other additional one. And I'm using this builder. It's not mandatory, but builder is better when we are creating this object to pass as a precondition. We are going to see it in the next slide. Cool, 3 minutes. And now the next slide. So how we can create a record right now for RestAssured? We know that we need to create, like we did here with Postman. We need to pass this data, right? How we can pass this data right now using Java instead of Postman? We need to use that simulation class, simulation object, and add some data on that class to be able to send it for that endpoint, okay, for that request. So the best way you can do, and it's a really professional way to do it, it's using the builder pattern. And Lombok creates this builder pattern for you with this add build annotation. So what we can do? Actually, we can, I'm creating here simulation, create a Java object with this simulation name. And what I'm going to do, I will write simulation dot builder dot, and I can access all the attributes like name, I'm passing as Elias, CPF, email, amount, everything. And in the end, it's really important, I must add dot build. Because it's a builder, I'm building the attributes, the things I want, which are the attributes with the values. In the end, I should tell this builder dot build all this data inside these attributes, okay? This is the first thing. And how we can make it right now, we have the data. And when we use the when method, we need to use instead of get the post, right? Because the endpoint is sending a post request. So we are going to use post. And one important thing, we should add explicitly the content type because we are going to pass this as JSON objects. We need to express content type, okay? And this object that we are going to pass, we normally call it as body object or request payload or request objects or body payload or with like request payload or body something. And what we need to do, first we need to create the object that we need to send to this post method. After that, we are going to create the given, the precondition, which is the body. This body is the same, can you see here on the documentation, highlighted, is the same name here, it's body, like the same for the path parent. And I'm past the simulation. What is the simulation? The previous object I created here with the data. After that, I'm passing the content type. I'm telling this body object is JSON, okay? After that, I can do the when, the request, as a post and passing through that endpoint. Cool? So now I have a more complex because, yeah, it's a workshop, so we are learning the basic things. And after that, it's getting difficult, but not that difficult. But I will do with you guys, okay? I will do the first thing. We'll do the first thing. I will do the second part and the third part, okay? So the first, I would say to follow me on the IDE instead of this part, okay? I will write the things here and I will give you some minutes. So we already created this. Let me go to the test, but we didn't create the test. Let's create the test first. We need to create a method called create new simulation, okay? So let's do it together. A new test. So void create new simulation. Oops. And add test. Okay, I'll give you a few seconds to do the same. Simulation. Jesus Christ. Simulation. Okay. Okay, guys. Next thing, what I will do, I will type in the first letter in the uppercase, simulation. And you can see simulation. You can see simulation here. I will double click or hit enter to automatically import this. And I will write down here, simulation is receiving equal sign. Again, simulation, the first letter capitalized, dot builder dot. Now I have the access for all the attributes that I have in that class. So first, name. Let me just break the line here. After that, CPF and email and amount. Let me just zero. It's not okay, but okay. New big decimal the same way. Hit enter or double clicking in that one. Dot installments. Let me just break the line in the installments. Let me add that for now. And insurance, not, it's the insurance through. And in the end, dot build. Okay, so with this, I can create an object, call it simulation, with all this data inside, and this build is creating it. Just make sure, let's see the object. I will create with Elias, but you can create with your own data, okay? I will add here like Elias, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, amount. Let me add here 3,000, installments 5, insurance true, and build. An email, elias@elias.com. Cool. I'll give you 2 minutes to do the same, okay? And we can jump to the RestAssured code. And let me say to you guys, if you are pretty new with RestAssured, and if you are applying to do for some new position in your company or in another company, and they required you to create tests, API tests, and you're going to use RestAssured, this way is the basic one, but it's a really acceptable one. I'm telling you this because I'm reviewing all the tech assignments at Backbase for the QAs. And when we see a code like this, we can say, okay, this guy is learning, but the code is pretty okay. It's running. The guy knows how to use the object serialization. The guy knows how to use the correct assertions. So we'll be like, okay, to accept like technical assignment and talk with this guy in the next step. So we are not doing anything complex, but it's like small, and I would say like even beautiful, because it's small piece of code that working as expected, and we don't need to create a lot of different things to make it like work. When the time is over, 9 seconds, you just need to make sure if you are having some are having some trouble with long block, like it's not getting the builder or something, on the preconditions page, that is the way you can enable one thing. Let me just, you need to enable the, sorry, the annotation processor from your IDE. And IntelliJ has a way, Eclipse has a way, and other IDEs has a way. And we need to install the plugin and the annotation processors. And there's an option that we need to enable. Here is disable, I will enable, but you should make sure you have this, guys. I will do it again, okay? What I did here on my IDE with IntelliJ, I double click the enter button, no, sorry, the shift button, and I will, it's a search box, and I will write down annotation processor. And this one, the first one, I will select this, and you can see there is a checkbox here, enable annotation processing. You can check this, and can give you go there. And apply and okay. Cool. So let's jump to the next part. We need to add the given part, the precondition. So what we are going to do, let's okay, it's not a problem. I will answer your question in a minute, Paul. So right now I need to do given dot our request is a body, right? So I will use body with the simulation object. And I need to say that the content type is application JSON. In this application JSON, we have a specific way to use here. I will write in the first letter in uppercase, content, and you can see my IDE is showing me content type.json from RestAssured. So I need this instead of writing in a pure text. So I will double click on it, and that's it. So I will just apply my format for the code. Okay, content type. And I'll give you 1 minute to do this part and see what my cat wants. What happened? Because it's the door's closed. Let's see, Paul. Let's say we are automating test case. We want to build different simulation object for separate tests. Let's say without name field with wrong data and so on. Oh, good. We can do with something called a test data factory. Just promoting myself, sorry for this, but I have a blog post explaining this, this pattern, test data factory. And one of my projects on GitHub, the RestAssured one, you can see I'm using exactly this for this same endpoint, like when I need to not place the name, and I should see an issue when I send the request, right? I'm creating different factory objects to send to the request. So you can have a complete example there. But we are doing like this. We need to create a class, a factory class, and we should create some methods that will return different data or almost the same data, but with different aspects inside it. Cool. Okay, we have the minute. And right now, what I'm going to do, I will, after I will run down this, I will paste the link here, the chat. Now I need to send the request, right? I will add dot when, and the request is post. Okay, so when post where into HTTP localhost port API version 1 simulations. Okay, when I do this, the next step is then and the status code. Which is the stat code? The status code I will see in the document. That is 201 instead of 200. Most of the time, let me tell this. If your backender developer doesn't know much better the API REST architecture, you can see a 200 sometimes, which sometimes acceptable, but is not correct. The correct stats code for a post, sorry, is 201, which means a resource created. Okay, but I will add here 201. Cool. And I will give you 1 more minute to write down this part, and after that we are going to write the session together. And I will get the link. Yeah, here. This is my main GitHub account. And if you scroll down my GitHub account, you see 4 blocks with the four projects that I have. I have a lot of projects. You can check it out later. But one of these projects, RestAssured, complete basic example. And on that one, you can see this design patterns being used like that's data factory. And Michelle send also a question, and I will answer some, okay? Okay, 2 minutes, 1 minute actually. You guys need 1 more minute or or more time, or can I start to write down the assertion? No answers? I would say I don't have any, I don't need any more time. So the assertion dot body, right? So, but this body is different. This body, let's jump into the slides. The body, I need to add the header, to validate the header that has an attribute location with a value, right? And this location returns the complete URL for us, right? And we don't need to sometimes validate the full URL because the full URL can like be different. What we can do for this, instead of using body, we can use header because we are going to validate the header, not the body, right? Is the first thing. So on my code, I will add instead body header. I will give you some time later to do this the same. And as the location, I would add the attribute, which is location with L in uppercase. And I need to pass the URL. I need to like validate the URL because we saw, let's go to the Postman. It returns here below like the full URL, but I just need to see not the path right now, but if this value is okay. This key, because I sent this key like CPF, our primary key, right? To try to validate it, I will use the contains string method. And instead of fixed the data, I can use simulations.getCPF that already have this value that I need to validate, right? So I can use the object I created to see if like after the request, the same value that I have for CPF it's located, it contains inside this location string. Okay. And this is the full code we need to do. Let's do this together with you. So I added header. I need to pass to the header the location, which is location, which is the attribute that is placed on the documentation. So 201 header location. So 201 header location. And instead of equal to, I will add contains string. Instead of validating the full URL, I will say, okay, contains string. I could add this, right? This CPF. Instead of adding this hard-coded, I already have it here. I will use simulation.getCPF. That is the same of this one. So we are avoiding duplicating the same data here, which is a good thing for your script. Okay, I have the full thing here, and I will run. And after that, I will give you some time to write this. I will run. Let's see. Failed. Let's see what is failed. Oh, it's returning a 402. I will see it later because I think I know what is wrong here. For now, guys, one thing. Add this part. I will give you more 2 minutes or 1 minute. And after that, we will figure out together why we are getting a different error. Okay? Michelle, I think I'm pronouncing double. Okay. Big decimal. Yeah. Thank you, Rafa. He asked here, Michelle or Mikal, I don't know, sorry. Each test a method which checks creating of record will create that record in a database. So the number of records will increase in the database, and how to deal with that. Should database be reset before each test case? The way I'm using right now, I think it's a good way. We can use different ways. I'm resetting the database and I will running my test. And when my test finishes to run, I'm resetting again just to make sure I completely removing all the data. Otherwise, if you try to use the same, like if I try to run this in the first time, it's returning success. And if I try to run again, it will be return a conflict because I already have this data inside, right? So we need to deal with these problems, or generating dynamic data, or either removing the database. I'm using both, generating random data, and I'm erasing the database just to make sure I don't have any side effects with data inside. I would suggest you to do erase the database before and after the test runs. Just make sure the database is always clean. Okay. So what is wrong? Let's see here. Normally, I have the big decimal and I need to pass the F as well, right? And I add only 3 here. And amount, let's see if it is this problem. Run. Failed. Let me open here. It's not that. 402. What is it? Let's see. Validatable call, validate response, status code. Status code is different, yeah. And it's on the status because the status is different. And 4 Two is the something is wrong in my payload, right? So here I can see like name, email, amount, installments with 1L. And on our documentation, let's see our documentation, installments with double L. So I need to add all my attributes here, double L, installments, and now I can go there again. Whoops, needs to be here. Okay. And now double L here because yeah, it's not recognized. Oh, and let's run. Cool, created. And perfect. Let me just show to you. I will run again. I didn't erase the database, right? I will run again, and probably I will have some error because this data already exists. So I have like 409, and we have this on your documentation. Like 409, here is CPF already exists. So I cannot insert the same one, okay? What I will ask you to do, run your test, run twice, one to see that it's working okay, the second to see that is not working okay, and I will show you how we can like run again. Actually, we can like stop the backend application and start it again, because when it started again, we will recreate the database. Cool, 1 more minute. So far, we created get for both gets, and we right now created a post, and we are almost done with the basic HTTP methods. It's not that hard, huh? Okay. If you need some more minutes, please write down in the chat. Otherwise, I will continue to the next one. You know that it's not that hard. We have some differences between different HTTP methods, of course, because they are not the same. And most of the time, we are seeing the documentation. And if the documentation is well written, in this case, not well written, but has everything regarding the API, we can follow exactly what we have in the documentation, the OpenAPI documentation, and do with RestAssured exactly the same. And it's pretty easy to do. Cool. So what is next? How to update a record. Paul, builder is not imported on my site. This builder thing, maybe it's because, I don't know if you are using Lombok or not, because with Lombok, we need to install the Lombok plugin on IntelliJ in this case. No, you are using Lombok for sure, but I would say like the Lombok plugin inside the ID in the annotation processor. Like annotations processor in your IDE, like there's a different ways. I don't know for other IDs, but I added that there in the page, right? The precondition, I think. Can you double check this, Paul, please? I will continue here. If you still with trouble, we can check it later, okay? After the next exercise. How to update a record. So basically, we need to updates on APIs. it's related to the put HTTP method, and we need to see the documentation to try to do the same, right? So in the documentation, we can see that we have the put method, and the put method have 3 different aspects. Not 3, but yeah, 3 different aspects, let's say. You can see on the endpoint, we have the CPF because in order to update something, you need to tell, I need to update this record, right? So you are going to use this primary key or this key to tell the API or update this one. So I need to pass a path parameter, and I can see that the path parameter, according to the documentation, is CPF, and the type is path. And I need to pass the object, right, that I need to update. So I'm passing the simulation as a body with the same data attributes and content type JSON. It's almost the same as the post, but the difference between the post and put, like post will create it, put will update. And in the put, I need to pass as path parameter the key, the object I need to find first, and after that update. Okay. So when we update, we need to pass this key while I was telling this. And only one thing, guys. Normally, the put must send the whole object with all the attributes and data to update, because this is the correct way to use put. But sometimes most of the guys on the market are implementing the put, like instead of passing the whole object, we will pass only few attributes to update. It can happen, okay? But if you need to partial update, like I just need to find this social security number and update the email for this person, the correct HTTP method is patch, okay? It's not put. With put, I need, even though I'm updating only the email for that person, I need to pass all the data, even though it's the same data that is already in the database, okay? But sometimes the put, we can pass like a patch, but it's regarding the implementation of your backend developer, okay? By the way, in my API, we are going to use put as patch as well, but I need to change this. How we can do with Postman? So with Postman, I need to put and pass simulations. I need to fill the URL the same as I have on the endpoint. I need to add the body as raw and as content type JSON and the JSON object. So we can do the same here, passing put on the item 1. On the item 2, I'm passing the existing CPF, and 3, I'm clicking on the body. 4, I'm adding raw, and 5, I'm adding as JSON, and 6, I'm adding the object. And you can see here I'm passing a new name, and the rest of the object is the same. 7, the stats code, and 8, the return. It will return the whole object with the data changed. Okay. And of course, we need to double check the response to see which stats code we are expecting and which example, which response body we are expecting. In this case, is at 200, and it will return the simulations with the data changed. Okay. And how we can do this? First, I will go to the Postman. Let me get this URL. So I will use method post, paste the method here, and this is the valid CPF, okay? And I need to go to the body, raw, and JSON. Cool. I will jump to the next one, but I will give you time to do. I need to pass the same attributes, right? I will pass actually the same. Let me just copy from the get the same object, but without the ID, because I don't need ID. This is the same CPF. Instead tone, I will add here on the name Elias, and on email Elias. Okay, and I will send what I did wrong right now. Method put, sorry, guys. Method is put. The URL, everything's okay right now, and I can see here status 200 and the response body here, right? So what you need to do right now, go to Postman, add put, add the URL with an existing simulation. I would say to use the same you use it on the get endpoint. Go to body, or Json. I would also copy this content, paste, remove the ID, change the data, and hit send. Okay. I will give you 1 minute. I will just add this screen because I think right now you are used to play with Postman, okay? And we are going to do this with RestAssured. Yeah, time is up. So if you need more time, please write in the chat. But this was an easy one, right? We added the method as put. We should add a key that we are going to search for that object. And after that, when we found, we are going to replace the data of that object with this data that we are passing as body request, okay? And after that, we have the status code 200, and the response is also the object, okay? So let's see. When we do it with RestAssured, it's the same. We already know the path parameter. We already know that we need to send the simulation object, and we know that the content type should be JSON, okay? And we should validate the status code and response body. So what is the process? Create a simulation object that we created for the post as well. Second part, the given, the path param. I can use the same path param. Actually, this is just an example. That is the object that I will update, and the body, that is the object that we will update as well, but the CPF is the key to find, and the body is the whole object, and the content type as JSON. After that, I will send with a when put a request, adding the brackets and CPF into it to be replaced on that path param that we did on the get method. And after that, I will see if that amount was changed, if everything was changed, okay? This one we are going to do together as well, but in small steps. This is the action. It's quite big, but you can follow this later, but we are going to do together right now. So what we need to do, actually, do with me, guys, we need to create a method void update existing simulation, which is a test. I can wait. Okay, so the first thing, I will copy and paste, no problem to do this right now, guys. I will copy this, okay, simulation before. I will paste it here, but I will use a same CPF that is already existing. So I will use this 6641, okay? So the whole object will be different. Only the CPF will be the same, okay? I will ask you to do the same. I would give you a few seconds to create the same object. You can copy paste, no problem, from the previous one, but change the CPF for this one, by this one. Cool. What I'm going to do right now, given parameters, right? I have a path parent, CPF, and instead of add the value here, like the 6641, I can use this, right? Simulation dot get CPF, because it's the same CPF I'm going to use, right? Even I have this CPF, and the body is simulation, and the content type is JSON. Let me just format this, format this, format this. Cool. I will ask you to do the same. This part, 1 minute, and we are going to jump to the next part. And Rafael wrote here, how do you make these test results visible for your team? Does the team require it on a demo day or after release, or does it not require it visually, like Allure reports or any other report? Actually, we are using Allure reports. That it's a great tool, actually, to generate those reports, but we don't need to show to anyone it's working or not. Because we work in the trunk-based development, so we want to make sure the master is all the time stable, and we don't need to prove to anyone that it's working, because if master is not working, we cannot like even build the application with a master broken. But we are using Allure reports because we are running all the regression tests through pipelines, and when the pipeline fails, we go to the Allure report, attach it into the pipeline results, and we can see which tests were failing and which were like they throw. So for me, it's like, on my perspective, Backbase right now, we are using Allure report only to see issues when we run through the continuous integration of the jobs. Okay, guys, right now what I need to do means to send the request right now, right? So it's a when. So when dot put, right? And HTTP and localhost API version 1 simulation, and after put, I will continue with the validation, and I'll give you some time, okay? Then I know that the stat code, as we saw before, is 200, and the body, by now, what I'm going to do here, we have the object here, right? Instead of adding these values with the fixed value, I can do like body name equal to simulation dot get name, right? Because I already have this value here. And now I can do the same for name, for CPF, which is not necessary, but I will do anyway. CPF with email, get email, with amount, get amount, with installments, and with insurance. Get insurance, okay? And I will ask you to do the same. I will give you 2 minutes for this, and we can continue. And I would say to you guys, we are almost, it's almost 9, and we have the delete. So I would say to you, if you agree, and I need your feedback on the chat, I will, after this, explain to you, and we will write down the delete one. And I will tell what we have next on the slides, and you can follow it later. And we are going to finish call the day, because yeah, it's maybe you have something to do, or it's like it's late for you maybe. Okay. But the delete is really, really, really simple. You're going to see that. Okay, time's up. Do you guys need 1 or 2 more minutes to finish this one? Or it's okay to run this test? Let me run so you can answer. I will run this one. Let's see which error to show. Okay. Can you see right now? I forgot one thing, and it wasn't intentionally. I just forgot. You can see this exception. It's telling me illegal argument exception. Invalid number of path parameters. Expected 0, but was 1. And why is that? Because I'm sending the path parameter here, and I forgot to add in the end of the URL the CPF bracket, right? It's why it fails for me. So we will run it again. And it failed again, because this is something that, yeah, we discussed, because it's the expected result doesn't match, okay? This one, I need to either transform this whole thing again into in the big decimal, or try to do any other approach. Actually, this thing, I should do use a specifically feature from RestAssured to use only big decimals instead of adding that F. But for now, just make sure it's running. Let me see the, it's this, right? I will add this here. I will run it again. Let me add without, Jesus Christ. It's all the time confusing me because all the time you're using that feature from RestAssured that can do this conversion, but we can let it go. Just make sure you can, guys, do it later. Let me just write down here. Let me just access the RestAssured documentation and paste the link that you should read later. Okay, one sec. Let me just show the code here and the user guide. Here. Later, guys, please follow this link from RestAssured documentation because this is telling how to deal with this big decimal part. We need to send a configuration for RestAssured. Cool. Let me do the delete request and explain what I have later, okay, to finish the workshop. Just make sure I will do the same I'm doing professionally during my day-by-day activities. I will see like delete, okay, it's a delete, it's an endpoint API version 1 simulation CPF, so I need the CPF as path parameter. Let's just see, yeah, CPF as path, and the response will be only status code 204 without bodies, right? So what I'm going to do, I will create void delete simulation test, and I will given, because I have a path parameter, right? Path parent CPF. I will pass the CPF, that same one I have, this one. Okay. And dot when dot delete, the same method we have there, and HTTP localhost host slash API version 1 simulation with CPF. I'm not forgetting this time. Then the then has only, let me format this, status code has 204, and that's it. Let's see this one. Run. And delete it. If I try to delete it again, according to the documentation, it will give you a 404. It's giving me here a 404, and the documentation says 404 if simulation is not found. So it's perfect. Okay, guys. I will say sorry because we could not make the step-by-step guide using the slides for this one. But let me just explain this, and I think we are finished. We finished this, okay? So we have the delete record. Make sure you walk through to this chat and see the link to download it. And it's showing the delete part, the node, how we can do with Postman, how we can do with RestAssured, how we can delete, the explanation for deletion, the same, the exercise for that. And I have here what next. You can try to do in your home the approach to manage the pre-post conditions, which is created with a base test because we are all the time fixing the local host and the port. So we can have we do have a way to avoid that, we can create this approach called base test. So there's a step-by-step guide here telling you how to do it, how to modify your code to create this, adding everything, right? Yeah. The actual exercise for that, the 2 parts. And here, after, if you need to try to do more tests, you can try to continue practicing this test automation with the other different stats codes, right? Like for the exception paths. And you can try to learn how to, someone asked it, right? So how to manage the data, different data. So I have a blog post about it. And if you need to manage different properties configuration, I also have a blog post on that. And the same link I pasted that someone also asked, that my project RestAssured complete basic example. So there's everything, there's all the tests there with test data factory, with other design patterns. You can try to look and try to do yourself instead of copy paste. Try to actually write the code, even though if you are looking the other screen and copying, but we'll learn it like faster, okay? And this is just a thank you guys to be here this 3 hours with me. If you would like, you can follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on LinkedIn, you can follow my GitHub, because all the projects I'm creating, I'm adding there. The presentation, the link, let me paste the presentation link again. But in the case you can miss that, you can ask on the Meetup channel. I can answer you with this link, okay? Really, thank you guys for this time. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate all your questions. You guys are asking a lot of good questions in this workshop.